Good to me. Okay. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, November 19th, 2024. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Couldn't hear him.
Okay, good morning, everyone. We do have a quorum present this morning with 4 commissioners in physical attendance. I believe we also have Commissioner Tolman joining us online. Commissioner Tolman, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Morning to you. With that, the first item of business is the approval of the agenda, commissioners, and I would ask what your pleasure is.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richards,
move to approve the agenda as presented.
you have a motion to approve by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Next is tab A. We've got a public hearing for a budget amendment before us this morning. That will be resolution 24-11-CL-02. This is a budget amendment to increase the budget appropriation to the SkyWest Airlines contract. With us this morning is accounting specialist Rebecca Romero. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, so this budget amendment will affect the general fund reserves. The airport director was here last week and gave everyone an update and mentioned this. So he is needing for the SkyWest budget to increase. And like I stated, the general fund reserves would decrease.
Thanks, Rebecca. Questions on this resolution, commissioners? As you recall, we originally budgeted 250,000. Our contract states that it'll be a not to exceed amount, which was, I believe, 793,000. So this just makes it to where we have enough for the cap amount in the budget, and we'll obviously hope that it comes in under that, but there's no other questions. We do need to have a public hearing for this request. So at this time, if there's anyone in the audience or online that would like to speak to this budget amendment, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Jones.
move to approve resolution 24-11-CL-02 budget amendment in the amount of $543,587.42.
You have a motion to approve by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
I would
Second by-
second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. We'll get you on the next one. Any further
Okay.
discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Moving right along in the agenda, we next have county resident comments and concerns. If there's anyone in the audience or online that would like to address the governing body, that would be the appropriate time. Come on up, sir. Please state your name for the record.
My name's Wendell Minkler. I stutter. I don't know how it happened, but 6 generations ago, there's another Minkler that stuttered.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up a couple of things that I love. $200 for 2 little tickets. My pickup's getting older. It should be going down. If property tax is going up, my ticket should be going down. I'm just teasing. I like to laugh. The elections. I hear there's lots of talk about elections around the United States. I mean, Wyoming. And I was a poll watcher twice. I spent 12 hours in the building, 2 different buildings. And I've come over here to vote first, and I voted right next door, 100 feet away from here. It's early voting, and There's always a person standing right beside the voting machine, looking at the ballot, telling you what to do with it. I mean, after watching them one time, I knew what to do with it. But after being a poll watcher, there's probably 70–80% of the people don't know how to slide it in that little slot. So we got people watching how you vote if they wanted to. I thought everybody did a great job. All of the people we hired, you guys or whoever did hired them did wonderful. But now I guess there's an issue going on somewhere in the state over, we can't do hand counting because you can't look at the ballot. Who am I going to sue? All of you guys that allow a person to, you were paying for a person to stand beside to show them how to put it in there. And a lot of the time the paperwork's bent a little bit. So you got, the guy tells them, or the gal tells them that I can't touch the ballot, but you got to put your finger here to get it in there. But we can't do a hand ballot? Thank you, Governor Gordon. Wild Road next is, sure would like to see some salt out here. Wild Road's really good, I tell you. The other day at 6:15 in the morning, I'm driving down the Interstate 80 and it's dry.
Oh,
45,
God.
45, 45. A couple of days later, it's real slick. 75, 75, 75. Whose handles our area around here? They're really behind the ball. I guess they haven't gotten up yet. The other thing is immunity. I'm not for any immunity. President, elected officials, nobody, police, or nobody. We all need to be held accountable. I know that I don't ever want to sue anybody. Don't want to get in trouble either to do anything, but I'm not for any immunity. Everybody needs to be held accountable for our actions. I guess it's okay that, tell you a little story. After I was at Home Depot and the guy was in a wheelchair, asked me, because I'm tall, to get something off because he couldn't get up to get it. And I did, and I got talking to him. He got ran over by a guy that doesn't speak English in a semi-truck out by Walden. I mean, a Wamsutter. So I started, a couple of weeks later, there was 2 fender benders on the same day here in a truck stop, fender benders, one in Love's over here and went downtown, and they didn't speak English. So I called up the state policeman back in Cheyenne. I'll make this real short. Bottom line, I wanted to know what the numbers were. I mean, I know that the fender benders are up 3 times higher than they used to be a couple of years ago. So I know that for a fact. So I was looking, just wanting to know how many of these wrecks are people that don't know how to speak English coming in from Canada. That never drove on ice before, don't know anything about the wind so much. And you know what he told me? We're not certified to put anything down on this computer that's not facts, but we're not certified to know if you speak English. You got to have an app on the phone, the top. So we can't even collect the data. Tell you how many non-speaking fender benders or wrecks out on the interstate. Why not? Oh, because we're not certified. Interesting. The last thing is, you guys probably haven't heard about this, but the FAA skeleton crew. You're going to hear about it. That is basically the FAA, their towers are fully staffed, but they hire all of the small ones like in Jackson Hole or something like that. They hire it out to a private contractor. They've been running at about 50% staff for years. Oh, they just announced Monday, or maybe it was Friday, that they're going to put out bids. They're going to put new contracts at the first of the year. So we don't know if Jackson's going to have an air traffic control system or not. Cheyenne, we don't know. It's interesting. FAA is finally woke up to it. Interesting timing with the election and all that, but we don't have that problem in Sweetwater County because we don't have air traffic control out here. I'm not saying that, but just keep your ears, look up, they call it FAA skeleton crew. going to be interesting to see how that plays out. It's, they are running around 50-60% staff, and up in Jackson, the first time, a couple of weeks ago, they finally got fully staffed, first time in years. Hey, Governor Gordon, didn't you know that? Everybody in Jackson knows it. They're the manager at the airport. I don't know his name, but he knows it. Interesting. That's all.
Thanks, Wendell. Appreciate you coming over this morning and sharing your thoughts. Morning, Assessor Davis.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dave Davis, Sweetwater County Assessor. I just wanted to let you know you're going to have a large adjustment on the next abate rebate form. This was due to mineral tax adjustment from Contango Resources. The Mineral Tax Division called me to let me know this was coming. And just to be clear, we do these all the time. There's always corrections. Companies have the ability to go back 3 years. You're always seeing these notice valuation changes come through, and you'll see valuations either increased or you'll actually see the decreases. The increases, we just actually create a new bill and send out. But the decreases have to go through a Board of County Commissioners meeting. This one was larger than expected. And what had happened is Contango had a third-party accounting firm look at some of their returns from the prior years and found some errors. And I think they had reported something as oil, but it was actually gas. So when they flipped the value into the right box, what had happened is that created an additional deduction for that producer. So it reduced the taxable value substantially. So it happened in tax year 23 and tax year 2024. I had sent you guys that email, and then Commissioner Slaughter came and visited with me. What it's going to do is reduce the amount that's going to be distributed on the next distribution from the Treasurer's Office in the neighborhood of about $750,000. So Commissioner Slaughter and I talked, and I reached out to the entities that were involved. It was in Tax District 113. So School District number 1, the college, Solid Waste number 1, the Fire District number 1, Countywide Weed and Pest, and Little Snake River Conservation District. I let them know their individual reductions, and I was able to talk to everybody except Little Snake River. Larry Hicks and I went back and forth by phone tag, but we never actually got to visit. But everybody else was okay with taking this one large adjustment and just taking it off the next distribution. So they all had enough in reserves. It wasn't going to affect any, there wasn't going to cause any issues with payroll or anything like that. But in this situation, the county has the ability to break this out over 5 years, which can be done, but it's something where it has to be managed and it has to be maintained. And it's something that we have never done in Sweetwater County, to my knowledge. I don't think we've ever gone back that far and had anything that we didn't feel like we could handle. So that's what you're going to see on the next agenda for that adjustment. The notice valuation change came Thursday, Friday last week. So we just missed the deadline to get on this for this meeting. So I just wanted to come let you guys know what was going to happen. But the school districts were the ones that track their cash flow pretty close, and they were the ones that wanted to know a little bit more about the story, about what had happened. The college was very interested, but everybody was fine with taking the adjustment. They were all going to be able to handle it. So I want to let you guys know that I don't think that 5-year thing is an option we need to consider. We can just handle it like any other adjustment that we receive. So, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Dave. It looked like for the county, it was around 130,000. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what I
Comments, Commissioners? Commissioner Slaughter?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, when I got this notice from Dave, I was in the courthouse doing some other things that day and saw he was there. So I thought I'd just go talk to him. Having in my prior position as county treasurer, this was something that we had happen quite frequently. But this was a large reduction. And so I felt like it was important. In my prior life, I would have notified the people at that district, letting them know that this had taken place. So I just thought it was important that the assessor's office or the treasurer's office do that. I had gone in to see Treasurer Cowan. He had his door locked, was in possibly with auditors, I think maybe. So I went in and talked with Dave and just recommended that he talk with these entities, letting them know this was coming. There are several different mechanisms which we have the opportunity to handle this, a situation like this with. And it just gives us a few more options, I think, if everyone's aware of what's going on and what the situation is. So I think the way we're handling it will be fine. It's just something to be aware that it will decrease our revenue for this year by $137,000 and will decrease, obviously, the school's revenue significantly more than that. They have never been too worried about that, as the State School Foundation typically makes that up. But that was the purpose for my conversation with Mr. Davis and where we went with that.
And Treasurer Cowan is also aware of this too, and he had suggested the same thing. I was in the middle of reaching out to those people, and he thought the same thing. Let's just take it off the next distribution, and everybody should be fine. And nobody had any real concerns. The little taxing districts like Countywide Weed and Pest, the fire districts, and solid waste district, it looked like a big number, but when you actually calculated what their levy was going to bring in, it was a small piece. It was a very small piece, and they were okay with this adjustment happening all at once. And keep in mind, these don't always go down. There can be very large increases as well. Now, you guys don't see those as a Board of County Commissioners. Those are just the values created and the bills go out. So this $130,000 that the county got shorted this time could be made up later in another notice valuation change that went the other way. So it just depends on, what's going on at the time. So, but again, just trying to let you know what's going on. I thought I'd give you the answer before you asked the question.
No, we appreciate that. Appreciate the email and all the detailed information that came with it too. Any other comments, questions, commissioners? If not, we'll look forward to the next meeting, but appreciate the info and sounds like we're all in agreement. So
Thank you.
thanks, Dave. Still under the county resident comments and concerns portion of the agenda. Is there anyone else that would like to address the governing body? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the county resident comments and concerns portion of the agenda. This is going to move us right along into tab B, which is the consent agenda. Before you this morning are 9 items under the consent agenda, commissioners. First being the approval of the November 5th, 2024 minutes, the approval of the county vouchers, warrants, and the expenditure approval listing, as well as the commissioner's report, the approval of monthly reports, the approval of abates and rebates, approval of human service agreements for VIRS, a request to restaff multiple positions in the sheriff's office, a request to restaff a vacant position in the maintenance custodial department, a request to restaff a vacant position in the land use department, and finally, a request to ratify the final MOU for industrial siting, the Kemmer Power Station Unit 1 impact assistance. Commissioners, I would ask if there's any requests to remove any items off the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, there's one I want to discuss, but I don't think it needs to come off the consent
Okay.
agenda. So before we vote, I'd like to discuss it a little bit.
Sure. Any requests? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, on item B2, which is the approval of county vouchers, warrants, expenditures, as portion of it's a ratification and it's already done, I would like to bring up the voucher for Boys and Girls Clubs. The voucher came in at their full annual distribution, and it was approved before I caught it. But October 1st, we adopted an MOU with Boys and Girls Club that said we would distribute those funds separated in equal monthly payments. I want to make sure that we all have it on our radar that in the future, these outside entities also understand that when we appropriate, that we're not just giving them a check up front, that it's part of our budget to separate that out over 12 months. And it's really not appropriate of them to put the clerk's office in a position to fund that whole amount. It's a small amount overall, but it should have been 1/12. And I feel taken advantage of, I think is what it comes down to. So it's a done deal. The check's already been written, but I want to make sure we don't do that again.
Thanks, Commissioner. No, I agree with those thoughts. I that's the whole purpose of having an agreement with some of these organizations, and there is a reason for different cash flows and whatever the case is. And yeah, it may be small overall compared to our budget, but nonetheless, if everyone did it, then we'd be in a different position. So appreciate that catch. Any other discussion? If not, we do have a motion and a second on the table for the consent agenda approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. This is going to move us right along into commissioner comments. Looks like I'm first, so it's a perfect day for Commissioner Tolman to be gone because that normally means I got to buy lunch. So that'll be a couple cheap dates today. Looking forward to that. Relatively light last couple weeks for me. The day after our last meeting, I had the leadership lunch with Mayor Mickelson, the Chamber CEO Rick Lee, their board president Dolan Wire, and City Administrator of Green River Reed Clevenger, which, as you know, we all get together once a month to just kind of share the different happenings and the different governmental agencies there. It was obviously the day after the election, so the most of the hour and a half we were there was all election talk, which made for some interesting convos, but overall, nothing much to report back from either of those entities. I did have a discussion with Tristan Rice from the WCCA in regards to the congressional tour that we'll be putting together. I think Rob has graciously agreed to step up to that. So they're just kind of in the very beginning and preliminary stages of trying to organize that tour and find a lead county and how they're going to fly in of this county and travel to the next. It's kind of all over the place. So I'll work with Rob on that over the next few weeks as that planning stage continues. He's had some other obligations, so I'm trying to help out where I can with that. Yesterday, I attended there was an economic development stakeholders meeting with Insight Consulting, with different agencies throughout the county that basically came together and shared their different thoughts on what economic development looks like for the county across a variety of different fields and industries. It's always good to get together and share the different needs. It's always a matter of funding, as with everything. So we'll see what comes out of, I guess, their recommendations from that group on a path forward. But it's always easy to talk about. It's a lot harder to implement, and especially when you're under tight budget constraints. So it's good to all be similar on the same page or close there too, and we'll see where that shakes out. I also had a Water Users Coalition meeting yesterday. We meet every other month, and it had been a couple because the last time we were supposed to meet, we didn't have a quorum. So lots of information shared there. It's kind of the same routine where a lot of the different reservoirs are down compared to where they've been in the last couple of years. But the one I wanted to share in particular was Fontenelle Reservoir. So the goal usually at this time as heading into the winter months and prior to spring is to keep that at about 1,000 CFS coming out of the Fontenelle Reservoir. And right now it is at 820, which is pretty significant. They haven't seen a dip or a need to dip that low since, I believe it was 2020 and 2021. And so that's obviously concerning. That's just an indication that there's poor inflows. And so as such, they're trying to conserve. Another concern with that is anytime you go below 850 CFS, it puts stress on the fishery downstream. So they're keeping a close eye on that. And I'm talking to Bureau of Rec in this regard for the effects that it could have on the Green River. So I don't know. It's been kind of a catch-22. It's been a nice fall and a light winter, and I think a lot of us have enjoyed that weather, but at the same time, it has a downstream effect, no pun intended there, with not having a lot of moisture and a mild winter. So we'll see what the next few months bring forth, but that's kind of where things are looking on that. Lots of other information shared with the state engineer's office and a bunch of different meetings that are coming up. So hopefully in January, I'll have more to report on that. This is kind of the busy time for water conferences and things along those lines. So it's a great group. I feel out of place because they're all very, very knowledgeable and speak well to the matter. It's very important, but it's very complex. And so I have a lot to learn there, but it's certainly one we want to continue to be involved with and keep an eye on, given its importance. And lastly, yesterday I had a meeting with Young at Heart. There were 4 board members, their director, and Mayor Mickelson in attendance. I'd shared with you all, I think in my comments a couple weeks ago, that we were setting up a meeting to try and, I guess more or less get on the same page and find a good understanding as to the MOU that's in place that I don't think any of us even knew existed until recently. But that dates back to 1980. And it's more or less a funding agreement for maintenance for the facility. That's 65% county, 35% City of Rock Springs. And so I know there were some concerns shared, I believe, with Commissioner Toman at one of the monthly meetings as she's liaison to that board, that we had cut their budget this year and they were trying to get a capital project done for a lighting upgrade. And so I think they were a little bit disappointed with that. So we just kind of got together and went through it. Originally, the idea was to reopen the MOU and look at changing it. I kind of suggested not to go down that road. I think they've had some changes at that organization and they're trying to get things back on track. And so it was more or less just trying to figure out what the money that we give them is supposed to be used for and how they go about, budgeting differently for different capital needs. And so it was a great conversation. It ended very well, very positive. And I think moving forward, Commissioner Toman will probably have more to share with us. They were going to look into a strategic plan and some different budgeting avenues that would set some money aside for different emergency maintenance needs and things along those lines. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting together and talking things out and you walk away being on the same page. So I was grateful for that and appreciate Commissioner Toman dipping out on me on that one and leaving me alone, but that's okay. Happy to catch up with you on all the other details of it, Commissioner. So aside from that, Commissioners, I'm going to save you some time and I got a busy couple weeks coming up with most of my liaison duties next week. So I'd stand for any questions. If not, Commissioner Slaughter, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the 13th, I spent the morning updating and reviewing financial records for the Specific Purpose Tax Joint Powers Board. We had a $3 error on a $28 million balance. It was driving me crazy. We were able to identify that the bank had actually paid $3 more on a requisition than what was intended. So we were able to get that resolved. That afternoon, I visited with Assessor Davis to discuss the large notice of valuation change decreases that were received from Contango Oil and Gas Company. Dave and I discussed the issue and I suggested that he notify the districts that would be affected. We have several options as to how to address this issue, and I thought it was important for all the affected parties to be informed, as we spoke earlier today when Dave talked before us. Here we go again. On the 14th, I picked up the packet from last month's regular meeting of the Golden Hour Senior Citizens Board. I've had regular contact with the center's administration and board members as I have not attended their last 2 regular board meetings. In this meeting, they made new committee assignments, discussed attendance at their monthly activities, and updated bank account information. Director Driggs reported that they had not received the funding allocated by Sweetwater County recently. I stated I would check on it and see when it could be anticipated. I talked with accounting and found that they had submitted 4 months at one time, and payment was made last week to them, so that should be taken care of. Having spoken with their new board president, Kathy McCormick, it was believed that quarterly attendance at their meeting would be fine and that they would contact me if any other need arises. I will make contact with Center Director Marcia Driggs after next week's meeting, as I once again have a schedule conflict. On the 18th, I prepared for the regular monthly meeting of the Specific Purpose Tax Joint Powers Board. I received several new requisitions that morning and made arrangements to evaluate them at the meeting in the afternoon. I then received an email from Sally that there had been a scheduling conflict with our meeting room for the meeting to be held at 3:30. I scrambled to let all interested parties know that we would be holding a Teams-only meeting and begged for help from our IT department. Jamie Green was up to the task and helped me make the necessary arrangements, and we set up the Teams meeting. I'd like to give Jamie a special thanks for that. Without her help, I would have been lost, as both Sally and Joint Powers Board Assistant Allison Bolsick were both unavailable. The meeting went off without a hitch, and all requisitions were approved for this period. Yesterday evening, I attended the regular quarterly meeting of the Tripartite Board. A brief reminder, the Tripartite Board is a public advisory board that's mission is to improve the well-being and potential of people in poverty by partnering with local agencies to provide direct social services in Sweetwater County and to inspire community action. Last night, the board approved quarterly report number 4, the financial report, community action strategic plan, and the CAP 60 community assessment plan software report that had to be done. We also reviewed community needs assessment and organizational standards. And then we reviewed and discussed fiscal years 26 CSBG contract requirements, and we approved application for that contract. I'd like to take the opportunity to wish all of our county residents, especially elected officials, department heads, and staff a happy Thanksgiving next week. I hope that everyone is able to enjoy their families, friends, good food, and football, and doesn't have too much of any of those things. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would stand for any questions.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any questions for Commissioner Slaughter's report? If not, Commissioner Tolman, the floor is yours.
Never fear, I am here. Well, greetings from sunny Branson, Missouri, 60, 70 degrees, a little bit of rain yesterday. Decided to take a little vacation. This is only the second meeting in almost 4 years where I had to Zoom in. COVID got me one other time. November 5th, we all survived the election day. Thank you to the voters for turning out, and of course, for electing Commissioner Jones and myself to the county commission again. I was happy to hear the President-elect Trump and his team are going to focus on seeing that government is run more like a business. I have pledged that to the county since day one. I want to commend Sheriff Grossnickel, who has made the most strides in that direction in Sweetwater County for more efficiencies at less cost. Good job. Thank you. And I offer the challenge to others. And I know all of you are working hard to do the best you can for the county. We are lean and mean, and we appreciate all you do for us. So thank you very much, employees. November 6th, I went to Climb, Wyoming, where they asked community members to participate in a series of mock interviews for their class of certified nursing assistants. I was most impressed with the passion and purpose these students displayed. Great job, Director Christy Copy. This is one of the most productive nonprofit organizations in the county that trains and places low-income single mothers in careers that improve their way of life. And I would challenge all of our social entities to strive for this level of accountability and proven results. The next 5 days, I got on my big black horse, rode through a foot of snow to get the cows gathered up for the shipping for the family ranch. Oh boy, am I still there?
Still there, Commissioner. Loud and clear.
I don't know, the pop-up ads, it's completely wiped my screen anyway. I will continue on. The days were cold, but I did survive. November 15th, I attended the airport board meeting. Director Brubaker announced that the terminal project is now fully funded with the addition of the $7.5 million airport terminal discretionary grant. Appreciation was expressed to the county and the city's willingness to sign a good faith resolution to provide the needed funding if all those grants did not come through. So they said to tell you thank you. The hangar rental income and number of passengers beat the 2019 numbers, so we are seeing progress toward the 2012 high numbers out of Southwest Wyoming Regional Airport. Governor Newsom jumped up as a pop-up ad. Sorry, guys. A lease agreement and business license is in the works for Western Wyoming Aviation Services for a Part 61 flight school. So to the public, now is your chance to get your private pilot's license and maybe even more, because there's a huge shortage of pilots across the nation for commercial pilots. And as a private pilot, I can tell you it's a great challenge, and it's worth doing. You either love it or you hate it. Chairman Wamsley helped the airport secure a $19,840 grant for emergency radios. A consultant was hired to assist the airport in getting the best fuel supplier. A $1,000 Christmas bonus was approved for the 9 airport employees as they did not receive any raises or cost of living increases this past year. Young at Heart Senior Center, thank you, Commissioner West, for stepping in and working through the MOU with the mayor and board members from the Young at Heart and the director. Okay, after the airport meeting, I attended the 4-H Achievement Night. The county received an appreciation award for our support. There were over 70 kids and their parents at the fun-filled event. Tracy Meets, the administrative assistant, did a great job of organizing the event. The UW is in the screening process for hiring a new 4-H educator again. And here is our award. You probably can't see that very well. Sweetwater County commissioners are recognized for their outstanding and dedicated support of the Sweetwater County 4-H program. So thank you to my fellow commissioners again for their support. Afterwards, I walked through the 14th annual Home and Holiday Show at the events complex. It was bigger and better than ever. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman. I shall return home sometime this week.
Thanks, Commissioner. Well-deserved vacation. Hope you have a great time there. Any questions for Commissioner Tomlin's report?
Mr. Chairman, just a comment.
Mr. Slaughter.
As I was returning from hunting one day, I saw what I believe was Mary's group bringing some cattle in, and there was a four-wheeler on the side of the road, and it looked like Mary might have been off of the four-wheeler. So I just wonder if she was actually on a horse or if she was on a four-wheeler doing that.
I was actually on a horse for all 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
It's
I
much
just saw
easier
that.
riding a horse than a four-wheeler, once I can get on the horse, that is.
Okay, good to know.
Very good. Thanks, Commissioner. Have a great trip.
You.
Commissioner Richards, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Evening of our last meeting, I came back to the courthouse to watch as the results of the general election came in. I want to congratulate Commissioners Toman and Jones on their reelection. I believe the voters made a great decision, and I'm glad to get to continue to work with the both of you. Following day, I remotely met with the Housing Task Force, followed by a comprehensive economic development strategy project update. Grants Manager Marshall is continuing to work through the process to procure a grant through the Economic Development Association to fund the bulk of the project. She's also been working with them to determine if a simple MOU between the partnering entities will suffice or if we'll have to create a more formal organization to pursue the grant. One of the questions that you have to answer to procure the grant is, what are your plans for economic development, which is of course circular, because part of the whole reason to develop a SEDS is to create a plan for economic development. So that's how government, especially federal government money works. We'll continue to work forward though and chip away at it until it's done. On the 7th, I joined Land Use Director Bingham and Chief Deputy County Attorney DeLeon on a trip to Kemmer to participate in the MOU negotiations for Kemmer Phase 1 power plant project. Lincoln County used the same process that Eric and John developed this year for the Project West and Dry Creek projects. And though there was some back and forth, a unanimously supported MOU was adopted with all identified communities signing on. The majority of the negotiations were between Lincoln and Uintah counties, and I think that Uintah County might have overplayed their hand a bit. However, Lincoln County proved to be a very gracious host and made concessions that I doubt I would have been willing to match. So our county's request, however, was fully funded and supported by all parties from the very beginning. It's clear that Sweetwater County has set the precedent going forward on how to proceed through the industrial siting process. And while Sweetwater County represents only a small part of Kemmer Phase 1, it's also clear that Eric and John are regarded as the experts in the field, and every Southwest community is looking for them for continued guidance. So thanks to both of them. It was a pleasure to work closely with Lincoln County Commissioner Chairman Connolly and Chief of Staff Allen to get the MOU completed. And I look forward to continuing the process in the future. I do believe that MOU negotiations for future projects will get more competitive. So it is something that we're going to have to keep a close eye on. everybody wants more of a smaller pot of money. I had planned to remotely attend the Central Wyoming Congressional Tour Planning Meeting on the 8th, but real life intervened and I had to take my little brother to Laramie for a surgery. Surgery was successful though. He's recovering well. On the 13th, I attended the monthly Planning and Zoning Commission meeting where they tabled the one application they were addressing pending the landowner cleaning up some ongoing issues. Later that day, I remotely attended both the WCCA legislative update and the regular monthly WCCA update. Yesterday, I had a little more intensive day. It started at 7 a.m. on KREO for my regular visit there, followed by the Insight Consulting Project team meeting at 8:30, then the Sweetwater County Stakeholders Economic Development Workshop that the chairman mentioned at 10, and then continued with a lunch with them and the Wyoming Business Council and Insight staff at noon. Later that day, I had a combined communications board meeting as well as a library board meeting, both conducted regular business. You'll note at the communications meeting, their search for a new director is ongoing, and they have received 21 applications for that position that they'll be working their way through. Throughout the 2 weeks in my free time, I've also worked very hard on our Dry Creek Industrial Siting Project impact assistance application. I've met with Eric and John in person as well as remotely multiple times to support them wherever I could. This application has proven to be considerably more complex than Project West, and Commissioner Slaughter's been absent without leave the whole time. He says hunting's an excuse, but I'm not so sure. He has nothing to show for it. Exhibits and written testimony for Dry Creek are due today. And unlike with Project West, where I was able to work on my verbal testimony up until the day of the hearing, this time I had to have my testimony completed in written form weeks before the hearing. John and Eric were here until 10:30 last night. They worked through the weekend. I see emails still coming in from Eric fixing that stuff. We'll probably be working into the day to finish it up. As much extra time that I have put into the project, it pales in comparison to the time that Eric and John have put into it. They've been working nights, weekends, trying to corral the county departments and agencies that we're sponsoring applications for. Both of them have gone above and beyond in doing whatever is necessary to bring back resources to Sweetwater County. And I want to thank you both for the work that you put in. The exhibits for this round are much more complex, and I believe we absolutely made the right decision in asking the municipalities to submit and defend their own applications and exhibits this time. I think some of them may have been shell-shocked by how much of the heavy lifting that Sweetwater County has been doing to procure funding on their behalf. Going forward, tomorrow morning, I'll meet with SEDC Director McDonald and members of the Wyoming Business Council's Startup Wyoming, which is a program to develop entrepreneurial services across Wyoming. After that, I'll attend our twice-a-month Housing Task Force meeting. Following that, I have a SCORC Steering Committee meeting and a court security meeting in the evening. On the 21st, I'll join Clerk Lane for a presentation of the ClearGov software that I discussed with all of you a bit earlier in the year. Elections are over. Cindy finally got that scheduled, and we're going to go forward on learning a little bit about it. See if it's something that would be beneficial to us as we move forward in the budget process, which is, by the way, coming up fast. Several of us will be watching the remote presentation from the engineering conference room, so we can discuss the presentation a little bit afterward. But if any of you would like to watch the presentation, I'm sure Cindy would provide you with the link. Later that afternoon, I'll tune into the NACO West Region monthly update, and I'll also likely attend the YWCA's Festival of Trees that evening. On the 22nd, I'll be at the pre-hearing conference for the Dry Creek project, which will be held at the Hampton Inn and Suites here in Green River at 10 a.m. You're all welcome to attend, but if you remember from the Dry Creek project, this is mostly a procedural hearing with only council participating. On the 25th, I have a housing development meeting, 26th, the monthly Fair Board meeting. And really, that's all I have on my schedule so far, except for that little holiday coming up called Thanksgiving. And in that spirit, I just want to take the opportunity to thank the four of you. It has been an absolute pleasure working with all of you on behalf of Sweetwater County. I value the relationship that I've developed with each and every one of you individually, as well as a board. I'd also like to thank all the Sweetwater County employees who are the ones that make my job look easy from the outside. That includes all the employees that we work directly with on a regular basis, as well as the many employees across the county that we don't see regularly, but who are just as important to the ongoing success of this great county. So thank you all. It's much appreciated. And together with everyone else who lives in Sweetwater County, I want to wish all of you happy Thanksgiving. I think that's all I have for you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Commissioner. Well said. Any questions for Commissioner Richards' report?
Mr. Chairman,
I
I
had
would
a
like to have
feeling.
rebuttal if possible.
Commissioner Slaughter.
I would take exception to the fact that I was absent without leave. I had previously asked Commissioner Richards if he thought it was necessary that I attend a meeting in Kemmer with him, along with other meetings on the industrial siding, which he has taken very good care of. But I would also like to state I'm slightly disappointed and somewhat jealous of the fact that he has now thrown me over for Stephen P. Allen, MBA. So it has hurt my feelings. I want him to understand that, and it may jeopardize our relationship moving forward.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Slaughter, if you'd have shot an animal this year, maybe you would feel better.
If I had shot at an animal, I would maybe feel better.
The bromance is starting a divorce. I'm getting concerned.
Boy.
Appreciate the report, Commissioner. Commissioner Jones, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe I have anything nearly as controversial as what we just witnessed, but on the 5th, proudly took the opportunity to vote in our general election. It's a duty I take very seriously. All Americans should do the same. I'd like to congratulate Commissioner Toman on her successful reelection and thank the voters for instilling their trust in me with the obvious election results. No matter if you voted for me or not, I'll do my best to represent all Sweetwater County constituents. And I look forward to working with the 4 of you in the future. On the 6th, I spent the morning with representatives from YDOT and State Trails working on routes for trails to incorporate in the Southwest Wyoming Off-Road Trails Program, which is why we all enrolled our county roads several months ago. We started with a meeting at the YDOT building for about an hour. Then we took a drive to Farson in order to look at examples of how enrolled routes would work with county and state roads. I think we made a lot of progress in one day, but nothing is written in stone yet. Still have some sticking points to work through. Also on the 6th, I attended the Memorial Hospital Sweetwater County monthly board meeting. Most of what was covered, I've already reported on. On the 7th, I attended the monthly enterprise meeting where Devin Brubaker gave a report similar to what he presented us. It was slightly different, but basically the same. I also had a conversation with landowner regarding my morning with YDOT and State Trails the previous day. And because we will be needing some assistance from some private landowners in conjunction with cities, counties, and the state to make this trails program work. Also on the 7th, I testified online at the SLIB board meeting regarding the sale of the Kelly School parcel and how it can be used to help us in the BLM make changes to the RMP. Governor Gordon has a tremendous tool in withholding the sale of that parcel of land to the federal government. I'm hoping that he will use it and not agree to sell the parcel until we have a satisfactory agreement on the RMP. The two can definitely go hand in hand and work well together. Excuse me. Based on the recent election in Washington, D.C. in particular, I believe we may have some support that's needed from the White House, so we may see a better outcome regardless. On the 11th, I attended the Starbus monthly meeting. Main topic covered was a clean financial audit. On the 12th, met with representatives from Contango Oil and Gas regarding the Jackalope Wind Farm project. On the 13th, attended the monthly WCCA meeting where we heard from all 3 of our delegation in Washington. Also on the 13th, attended an open house type of a meeting at Rocky Mountain Power Sports, put on by the Sweetwater Snowpoke Snowmobile and ATV Club. The get-together was intended to help introduce youth to the sport of snow machining. Maybe they haven't done it yet, or they want to do it, or they've only done it once or twice, but just to try and get some fresh blood in particular from the younger folks. The event was well attended, and we hope it'll lead to more involvement in the future. On the 15th, I was in Sheridan for Wyoming State Trails Advisory Council meeting. I'm the current chair of that council. However, the end of my term will be at our next meeting in 6 months. We typically meet twice a year, but we did make some changes so that we can meet 2 more times out of the year just to go for a ride, enjoy some trails and see what our grant money goes to. So not 2 more meetings, just 2 more events to get together and recreate, see what all is available to us in Wyoming. The council has representatives from pretty much every form of recreation in Wyoming. It's a tremendously great group of people who get along well, work well together. They deeply care about recreational opportunities for people both in and out of the state of Wyoming. And I would like to join in wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and I will stand for questions.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any questions for Commissioner Jones's report? By the way, I did watch your testimony with SLIB and thought you did a great job
Thank you.
speaking on behalf of Sweetwater County. So certainly an interesting, the Kelly parcel and the RMP is an interesting combination. Certainly a tool, but it'll be interesting to see where that shakes out, hopefully
Well.
for the betterment of all. Nice work, commissioners. Appreciate everyone's reports. With that, we're going to move right along into tab C, which is the action and presentation items. First up this morning is discussion regarding WS 24-3-102, requiring deposit by petitioners for county road alterations. With us this morning is Public Works Director Gene Legursky. Good morning, Gene.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. I just want to have a discussion with you guys. We are starting to get more active in people wanting county roads, altering county roads, doing stuff with county roads, getting rid of county roads. And within Wyoming Statute 24-3-102, there's a requiring a deposit by the petitioner. And as you guys remember the process, we can either be the petitioner or we have an outside agency or a person be the petitioner, and then we go through the process, kind of like we did up in Farson. And under 24-3-102, it says the Board of County Commissioners may require in their discretion that the petition for the establishment, alteration, or vacation of a public road shall deposit with the county clerk a sufficient sum of money to defray the expenses of laying out, vacating, altering such road, and such expenses, when so incurred, shall be paid out of such deposit. So, you know, if we do it in-house, which we have on the little ones that aren't controversial, that we don't have an opinion on, because one thing about the viewer is you have to stay impartial. And on the last 2, Andy or I couldn't be impartial. We had been dealing with it for a couple of years already with the landowners and everything. This one's kind of the same way. When we hire an outside viewer report, you know, they're expensive, but we get a 150-page document out of it. With this one, the viewer report is going to be critical because there's a lot of access issues. We're going to pay $2,400 as part of the viewer report for title work to be done, to make sure exactly who owns what and if the road really goes where. So what I'm asking you guys for is, where do you guys want to set this? You know, we've been doing $1,000, we've been doing 1,500. If you guys, and I apologize for little types, saw this last night. Those are our last 4 that we've done. You know, if it's in-house, $1,000, $1,500 is plenty. It pays for the advertising, pays for the certified mailers, everything like that. But on large ones, it doesn't. We have money under professional services with engineering that we can cover most of this, you know, most times. But I just don't know what you guys want to recover. And since it's completely up to your guys' discretion, I figured we could have a discussion on this and go forward. This pertains to the next action item that we will set that. I left it in there in the actual resolution is $1,500, but I highlighted yellow, and that can be changed depending on what you guys think.
Thanks, Gene. Quick question in that statute that you read, it ends with, if the road is finally established, altered, or vacated, the money so deposited shall be returned to the person who deposited the same. So they get it back?
Well, what we've been doing is any remainder, giving it back.
Okay.
And that's how, when we've talked with John and everybody, that's kind of what if there's money back, they get it back.
Yeah, because I read that as,
Yeah.
What's the point?
What's the point? Exactly. And that's how we've interpreted it, is if there's money left over, you get it back.
Okay.
And I think in talking with the Wasters Group, which is the Wyoming Association of County Engineers and Road Superintendents, over the last couple of meetings, this has come up across the state, is it's made to prevent people from just saying, hey, I want this county road. You guys go look at it, see if it's worthy, to actually have them have a little bit of skin in the game, to make sure that, I don't want to call them frivolous, but to make sure that we don't get hit by a bunch that we have to go out and research and do a bunch of stuff like that anyway on.
Sure. Discussion, commissioners? What do you think is a reasonable amount? I know that's hard because it can be dependent upon how involved some of these
Mhm.
are, but I mean, is there a way to categorize that, or should we average that and make it more simplistic as far as 1,500, 2,000? I mean, there's a part of me that I don't want to make it too big, but at the
Right.
same time, if they're going to get back any excess that's unneeded, then I think that maybe helps with the amount.
Well, and like on this one, if we set it at $10,000, that's going to scare the petitioner away. And I
Yeah.
don't think that's the right thing to do at all. It's one of those things where, obviously advertising, certified mail and stuff like that is a known quantity with all of them. Certified mail goes up and down just depending on how many certified mail is. Clerk Lane can attest, the one for Farson, I believe we sent out 29 or 30 certified mails a couple different times. That's why you're looking at, $400 versus $170, $150. On this one, you have 8 landowners, some other interested people, so you're probably looking at 10 or 12. I honestly think if we just set it at the certified, at like $1,500 and said, okay, certified mail advertisement, you get what's back. I hate to say it, but we can absorb the other costs. Do I think it's right because it varies so much? No, but I think it's the right thing to do. Does that make sense?
Mhm. I think that's reasonable. I mean, there's obviously a big time and cost for the county to have to go through the process, and that's what it's there for.
It is.
But
You know,
we don't want to make it too high, but at the same time, we want to be able to at least cover some
the
basic
hard costs. I think the
Yeah.
basic costs, the one thing that I want to point out is like on Washington Alley and 4th Street in Jamestown, the Bureau report I put NA, that doesn't mean we didn't do one. If you remember, Andy went through it. He spent, probably a week or more doing it, getting a hold of everybody, writing up a report, doing all the research. So that's hard to, if you have 2 different kinds of one where you have to go out and hire an actual surveying firm, engineering firm to be able to do it, or we do it in-house, we can keep track of our costs, but is it really fair just because on Kelly Road, I've been dealing with this for the 8 years I'm here. I'm very intimate and all, and I have my own opinions that we couldn't do this in-house. I don't think that's right to penalize those people for that. But that's why I'm bringing it in front of you guys, because you guys get paid the big bucks to make these decisions.
No, we appreciate that. Commissioner Slaughter?
Mr. Chairman, having had discussion with Public Works Director Legursky on this and having his advice, I would be willing to state that I believe that we should look at $1,500 as the cost for an application in this case.
Is that in form of a motion, Commissioner?
Absolutely.
Okay. We do have a motion to set and require a deposit amount by petitioners for county road alterations at $1,500 per Wyoming State Statute 24.3.102. Motion has been made by Commissioner Slaughter. I believe I heard a second from Commissioner Richards. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. I'll move us right along into item number 2 under tab C, which is resolution 24-11-EN-02, a resolution to consider establishing Kelly Road as a county road, and we'll hand it back to Gene.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this is just kind of dovetailing on from the next one. Kelly Road is out north of Rock Springs. It has served 8 residents, I believe, out there. It's been a private road since its inception. There's been some discussion on access, what actually is a private road. Looking at all the old documents, it is, it's ugly. I'll be completely honest with you, where we've solicited GIS people. Megan was critically involved in it. Land title companies that try to figure this out, and both land title companies here in Rock Springs have differing opinions. So we been approached by one of the landowners out there to actually make this a county road. And what we need to do is go through the process. If you guys feel so, this is the first phase of, basically a 3-phase process. Sometime in the spring, hopefully we'll have this done. And what I would like to do is, if you guys so choose to adopt this resolution, appoint Carl Robert Gerard as the viewer, who did the last one in Farson, so he knows exactly what we need. and then set the deposit amount at $1,500.
Thanks, Gene. I went through the packet, obviously, and read everything. Who is the applicant? I mean, is it the 8 or so that are listed and then they have the petitioner?
No, the petitioner is actually, the person that's a petitioner actually owns, her and her mom and dad own the last 2 lots on the southeast side of that road.
Okay.
And then some of the landowners, joined in as actual, because you have to have 5 that live within 25 miles in order to make this. They have to be voters within Sweetwater County. And when you look at 25 miles, it's amazing. You think stuff's 25 miles a long ways,
Yeah, it really is.
So when you actually look at it, what we listed and what we are starting to do to help us out is they have to list all the people that could be affected by this road. So we don't have to do the research. And that's what you guys see basically a second page of that after the county road petition, is everybody. So that way we know right up front, who are we dealing with, who needs to get notifications and all that kind of stuff. If you actually look at the handwritten stuff, the Erica McCarroll is actually the petitioner, and then all the rest of them joined the petition as petitioners also, but she was the original one that we were talking to on this. She has since moved up to Boulder, but she still owns land here, so she still is a valid petitioner.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this resolution, Commissioners? Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question, just to play devil's advocate. What if we don't approve this? What's the downside to that, I guess?
You're asking me a loaded question.
I know.
It's a private road. It stays a private road, stays as it is. We don't have to maintain another portion of road. We don't have to have these people bring it up to county standards. If you don't accept it, it's done. Doesn't go any further. It can probably get reviewed at this stage. But I don't know. We haven't ever went down that one, so I don't know that answer. But you're right. Yeah, right now, as far as I'd be concerned, it'd be stopped.
I guess the reason I ask is, again, just trying to look at both sides of it. But if we don't, then if we do, it's added expense to the county.
Mhm.
So guess I'm trying to figure the benefit to both sides. Obviously, it's a benefit to them. We take over ownership, we pay for it. So that one's easy to see.
Mhm.
I don't blame them for that, but then why? I guess I'm not seeing the benefit to the county if there's one there.
The only one in this, I don't know how to say this without swaying things, but if this would be to extend it all the way to the end of the property to that BLM portion, and that BLM portion is sold, I can see that being developed as housing for the county. Is that 10 years from now or 100 years from now? Sure, don't know. But I can see this road, Spangler Road and JY Road, as being arterial collector streets out to that east side of where kind of the residential has done. So is there some benefit? Sure. Is it immediate benefit? No.
Thank you.
Commissioner Slaughter?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Gene, every time we add, I'm going to piggyback off Commissioner Jones just a little bit. Every time we add something, it obviously is additional cost to Sweetwater County. And you are not going to have this number off the top of your head, but what would you anticipate the costs to the county to maintain that road for an annual basis would be?
What we would honestly look at doing, Chairman Slaughter, or Commissioner Slaughter, sorry, didn't want to give you that promotion.
No,
yet.
don't do that.
You want that?
Promotion, demotion, I don't know which one it is. We would honestly probably blade it. This would have to be brought up to county standards before I'd want to take it over. And I would strenuously, when this goes through and whatever the viewer report said, I would hopefully have some say in, hey, what is this? And that's part of what the viewer is going to go through is, hey, what kind of standard is, what kind of, condition it is. We also have fire code, it's got to be able to withstand an 80,000 pound vehicle, all weather surface, that kind of stuff. So what I'd imagine is we'd probably blade this 1 or 2 times a year, look at magging it. If we mag it, it's $4,200, and that size of road, you're probably looking at a couple grand each time we blade it. So you're probably looking at about $8,000 a year.
Once again, adding significant expense to the county each time we do one of these things. So need to take that into account. Thank you.
Commissioner Richards?
Mr. Chairman, you partially answered what I was going to ask. The viewers report We'll identify that, the likely expense of bringing that up to county standards.
Mhm.
And at that point, would it be the landowner's job to bring it up to county standards before we took ownership of it? Or would we have to bear the expense of bringing it up to county standards?
That would be up to your guys' discretion. I would obviously say, when people subdivide roads or do a subdivision, we make sure that those county roads are up to standards and actually have a year waiting period for a warranty before we actually officially take over those roads. If you look at Ranchview was completed. We waited 11 months, went out there and saw how the road was reacting, made sure all the deficiencies that we saw, if any, were fixed. And then I approached you guys to take those roads on. So that's how I would expect this process to be. But that is 100% up to you guys if you want to take it on before or after. You're looking at that much road. I don't know the condition of the gravel because I've only been down it a couple times because it is a private road. You're looking at $80,000 to $100,000 in gravel. You're looking at a significant expense if it has to be brought up to those kind of standards. Not to also consider that if this was done to collector or arterial standards, right away widths, moving fences, there's telephone poles in the way and stuff like that.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman. And the viewers report will give us a lot of that information.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Commissioners, I would ask what your pleasure is on resolution 2411EN02.
Mr. Chairman, I would propose to move forward with resolution number 24-11-EN-02.
We do have a motion to approve resolution number 24-11-EN-02, resolution to consider establishing Kelly Road as a county road, keyword consider there, with a deposit amount of $1,500. That motion has been moved by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
I'm
Richards?
hesitant. I don't want to open the floodgates of every road, every private road in the county. All of a sudden having a petition that we have to spend $10,000 on to do a viewer. But I think we probably need to go through the process and see what it is like. I'm hesitant to take on new county roads, especially private roads that weren't built to standards they're even close to what our county standards are. But I think as a learning experience, it's worth going forward. So I'll be aye vote.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I understand the process is there, but it is a lot of work to gather this and a lot of expense. And so I like the idea of having the viewers report to make a more educated guess ultimately. But I too don't want to open the floodgates for, now we have to take care of all, county private roads or private roads rather. So I'm good with moving forward with the viewers report, but I do have those concerns. Mr. Tolman, did you have something?
No, I'm listening.
Any other further discussion? If not, we do have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor of resolution 2411EN02 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene. Appreciate the info. Next on the agenda is a break, commissioners. We are 3 minutes behind, so we're doing pretty good. We will resume back here about 10 minutes. Let's call it 10:20. Take a 10-minute break. Thank you. We will call this meeting back to order. We're out of break. Where we left off was under tab C, item number 4, which is a credit card for the treasurer's office shipping. Treasurer Cowan is out of the office and out of town today, so I did have a conversation with him in regards to this request. I think it was last week, but anyway, this is in regards to shipping out the new license plates that'll be coming out next year and some of the different struggles they may or may not be having with those, but he's got a third-party company. It's actually out of Jackson that can do some of the shipping, and they have options where they can overnight them or second day air, and currently they can't do that. And the only use of the online portal that they have is for one user, and it's supposed to have a scale with it, and it doesn't have a scale option. So anyway, there's a lot of kind of back end struggles that they're dealing with. And so he asks, or is asking, I should say, permission to be issued a credit card for his department for strictly shipping purposes. He did discuss this with the purchasing department and Marty, and it sounds like they were on board. So that is the purpose of the request. I'd answer any questions if I can, or pretend like I know the answers, but do we have any?
Mr. Chairman, I
Commissioner
did
Slack.
talk with Treasurer Cowan last week on this issue also. And having been through this several times, it is a headache. Using the postal service is sometimes not the easiest thing in the world to do. So I applaud Mark in looking for some other options with respect to this. It looks as if this would be a very viable option. I'm somewhat skeptical of ever doing the credit cards for elected officials, simply because of some of the things we've seen happen in the past. But I think in this situation, it will be used strictly for shipping. And I believe that it's something that would definitely benefit the treasurer's office to have this as an option moving forward.
Yeah, and I did mention to him that I believe within the last year or so, we authorized credit cards for the county attorney's office, but the request from purchasing was that they reconcile their own credit card statements. So I asked if treasurer's office could do that, and as the treasurer's office, they didn't seem to think that would be a big deal. So
I would hope not.
any other questions, feedback? Commissioner Jones?
Mr. Chairman, I had conversation also. I had the exact same concerns that you just mentioned, but I guess the other thing about it was I did not realize the difficulties they have in sending out license plates. I never imagined it was so cumbersome. So I'm convinced this is a good idea.
Very good. Well, I'd entertain a motion to approve and authorize a credit card issuance for the treasurer's office to be used for shipping purposes.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Next, under tab C is item number 5. We've got a request for approval of multiple health insurance renewal documents for 2025. With us this morning is HR Director Gary McLean. And good morning, Gary.
Good morning, County Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, thanks for your time. Thanks for getting your open enrollment done promptly, all of you. Some later than others, but it was done on time. I appreciate that. Open enrollment is done, just wrapping up a few administrative things. Things went pretty smoothly, not just for the county, but also the other agencies. So what's in front of you is also part of open enrollment. We've got a few administrative things. As you know, we're self-insured and we contract with certain entities to perform parts of our health insurance. And each year we have a new contract with them. And so I thought I'd kind of bundle these together. The first one is the Pareto stop loss. Again, stop loss is how we regulate our exposure under our plan. Obviously, if you had 3 people with $1 million claims, the plan would be bankrupt. And so we don't insure all of the risk. We insure up to $200,000 on an individual claim. And then anything above that, the stop loss provider covers. And so it's probably been 7 years ago now. We went with a captive, which are kind of like-minded individuals. We're part owners of that. We compared the rates, the proposed rate increase in the market. Actually, we had Diversified do that, or IMA do that. By far staying where we're at is the best option. That increase of 17%, which I guess sounds a little bit high relative to most of the other entities in their book of business that were 30, 40, some 80%, just unbelievable. So for us, stop loss is not a major component of our cost. Most of the cost is in obviously paying claims. So it's 17%, but it's not a huge, it maybe amounts to $100,000 over the whole course of the year. So there's really no changes to the plan, significant changes to the plan, other than the rate increase to cover those exposures. Now, with that said, over the past 2 years, we've actually done pretty well. Knock on wood, I guess. So it's significant for us in that what really threatens our plan is not a high claim, but having lots of claims of above 200,000 where we pay the full 200,000 out of our plan. So one large claim isn't that big because our limit's capped at 200,000. But when we had those years where we had 18, 19, 16 high claimants, that creates lots of pressure on our plan. And as I said, we've talked about this. I've been working with Treasurer Cowan to develop that fund and take more of a straight line approach to funding so that we're funding 5 or 6%, not going up 16, 0, up 12. We're trying to take 5 or 6% every year. And especially now where there's some returns on what, if we have a good year, then we can invest that. He's investing 2 or 3 million, 3 million right now of that, which will give us significant interest income. So hopefully we can, hold that line without creating a lot of turmoil, not just for the county, but for the component units. So with that said, I'd recommend that and authorize the board approve the stop loss proposal, which is option 1 of the options that were presented, and authorize the chairman to sign.
Thanks, Gary. Any questions on this renewal, commissioners? Not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the attached or the enclosed rather stop loss proposal with option 1, which is inclusive of a 200,000 annual specific deductible, and authorize the chairman to sign the proposal.
Move.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion's unanimous. Hand it back to you for the pharmacy.
Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, the next item is Smith RX. This is who we have managed the pharmacy portion, or the PBM as they're called, Pharmacy Benefit Manager. This has had significant savings for the county, especially for a lot of the large items, large chemo drugs, autoimmune drugs. And they've worked on, especially those real high claimants, in identifying reduced costs. There's really no change here, except for the IRS for the high deductible plan increased the minimums for the high deductible plan from 1,600 to 1,650 and from 3,000 to 3,300 in order to be eligible as a high deductible plan. This was approved as part of our open enrollment, but this just recognizes this as part of the Smith RX contract. So I'd recommend that the board approve the attached amendment to the Smith RX plan and authorize the chairman to sign.
Thanks, Gary. Any questions on the Smith RX plan, commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the Smith RX plan amendment and authorize the chairman to sign all necessary documents.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. And we'll hand it back to you for the UMR renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners. The final component is with the self-funded plan, some entity has to receive claims from the healthcare providers, compare those against our contract, and determine how much is to be paid. Currently, UMR provides that service for us under an administrative services agreement. That's where we define a plan, and then they pay those claims in accordance with our plan. So there's a small increase on the medical claims processing, 1.4%. And then if you remember, we dropped the entity that we've contracted with to provide access to employees for some education and claims management and advocacy. That wasn't working. It was not a good fit. So instead, we're working with UMR, has a similar service that seems to be a little better fit and seems to be working better, called Plan Advisor. And so there's a 3% increase in the plan for that service, which is still significantly less than what we were paying previously for what seems like a more appropriate dialed in level of service. The UMR agreement is a little different in that it's that they've gone paperless. So this one has to be electronically signed. So I'd recommend to the board to approve the attached UMR agreement and authorize the chairman to sign electronically upon receipt of the link associated with the agreement.
Very good. Questions on this renewal, commissioners? Not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the UMR financial renewal and terms amendment and authorize the chairman to electronically sign.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks for that, Gary. I'll move us right along into item number 6 under tab C, which is a request for approval of resolution 24-11-CC-01, a resolution authorizing additional office holiday for county employees for year 2024. And we'll hand it back to Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners. As indicated in the attached resolution 2411 CC-01, Wyoming statute 183103 prescribes that the county offices will be open during usual business hours, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, and other days as established by the county commissioners through resolution. So at the last meeting, the board had approved Christmas Eve off as additional holiday for employees. And so in accordance with that statute and in accordance with the previous board's action, this resolution officially implements what the board had approved at the last meeting. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate you preparing that. Questions on this resolution, commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Let's move us right along to item number 7, which is a request for approval of resolution 24-11-CC-02, a resolution authorizing a one-time incentive payment. I'll hand it back to Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners. Resolution 2411-CC-02 again recognizes the will of the board from the past meeting to approve a $500 one-time incentive to employees in recognition of their service and contribution to the county. And the approximate cost of that resolution would be about $122,000. And we'll hand those out as you know, with the Christmas cards, check will be inserted. Those should go out at the end of this week, Friday, Monday, if everybody's available. So they should be out before the Thanksgiving season if the board approves the resolution in front of you.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you preparing that as well. Any questions on this resolution, commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, County Commissioners. That's appreciated.
This will move us along to item number 8, which is the request for approval of a capital purchase of a wheel loader for the events complex. With us this morning is Events Complex Executive Director Candy Pendleton, as well as Board Chairman Mr. Spicer. And good morning to you both.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thanks for having me today, and a shout out to Sally Shoemaker. She sort of had to push things a little bit to get me on the agenda today, so I appreciate her support as well. So just coming forth, as you know, we submit our capital projects to the Capital Committee just like the rest of the county does. So last year, we submitted some equipment purchases to the Capital Committee, and because of the funding issues that the county was facing, those things were not funded. And we certainly understand that. And I think we're limping along fine with what we currently have other than our wheel loader. So I'm here to ask you to reconsider funding the wheel loader. We went out for new bids for that piece of equipment. We opened those bids on October 30th. For once, that actually went in our favor compared to the bids we looked at in May. It was actually quite a bit cheaper than the bids we had received in May. So that was good news. So we received a couple of bids. Low bid was 164. Put my glasses back on. 164,555 from Century Equipment. It is technically a used piece of equipment. It was new when they bid for us in May, but they have since rented it out. It has 110 hours on it as of Friday of last week. So put together a couple of options for purchase for your consideration. That was an outright purchase, a 3-year lease agreement, and handed that information on to you. So just for information, we use that wheel loader almost daily. We use it for everything. So we use it to clean horse stalls. Those shed rows that we have obviously are fairly large, so we have to push there. We use it to build the BMX and motocross track in the indoor arena all year, snow removal, landscaping. So it is a piece of equipment that we use almost daily, but for sure weekly. So we would need it year round. And we have put just short of 80,000 into our current loader since spring of 2022 in repairs. And that is not what they recommend for repairs. They actually are more than that, but we just said, make it work for right now. And so we're limping along. So asking for your consideration, the Bob Spicer's here from the board. Our board has agreed unanimously to move forward with this if you are in agreement, and I stand for any questions.
Thanks, Candy. Appreciate the information. Discussion or questions on the request, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Richards.
Obviously, I support this request. I encourage Candy to come talk to us about it. As I've sat into the fair board meetings over the last 6 months, this has been an ongoing identified need. We cut deeply in our capital requests, and we expected there were some places we would have to come back and revisit, and I think this is one. So I would support this request, and after discussion, I'd be happy to make that motion.
Thanks, Commissioner. Other discussion? Commissioner Jones?
I just, I'd had a conversation with Candy and Island as well, but I just wanted to, and you did it, so thank you, but I just wanted to make sure that I looked at all options, the leasing, the, just obviously we're not rolling in cash, so make sure we're doing our due diligence, which was done. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, very detailed and easy to follow along with. So thanks for the efforts in putting that together. And I remember the conversations during budget time, and there was a lot of unknowns as far as what we may or may not be faced with. And so we're pretty conservative in that regard. But we cut, I mean, everywhere from county core to component units to outside agencies. And I support this request. If I had a preference, would prefer the purchase option versus the lease, just because it's going to save you money in the long run there. I didn't realize that it was $80,000 in repairs over the last 2 years. So that in itself is almost a lease payment if you go that option. The only concern I have, and I spoke briefly with Candy about it, is just I think we've cut our own county core, some of those capital projects. And so it may look better, or at least feel better, to have the capital committee get together and reconvene. And I think if we as a board, establish if we are willing to go back and fund some of these areas that we cut, if that's a dollar amount, and have them work through, some of the different options with that we can get on board with. I would feel better about that. I mean, like I said, I support this, and I know we had lengthy discussion during the budget season, but I just feel like if we move forward with this, then there's going to be more people that are coming before us wanting requests. And so I think it would be more strategic to have a plan ahead of time. At the same time, I didn't want to hold up the events complex because of, their ongoing maintenance issues with the machine that they do have. Candy told me during the break there that the quote they received is valid for 45 days. So it is possible that we could take it up at our next meeting and still have that price. I know that puts them back a couple of weeks, but just something that I was thinking about. If we are going to go back into this and dip into, reserves, essentially, what does that look like and how much, and how do we prevent, everyone from coming back and wanting more? So Commissioner Slaughter.
Mr. Chairman, I too had a conversation with Commissioner Richards on this. I do believe this is a necessary item for the events complex. As a member of the capital committee, it was something that I was going to bring up too with respect to this issue. So I'm glad to hear your take with respect to this. After we had finalized our budget this year, there was some conversation as to whether we wanted to go back and look at the capital that had been cut from our general county budget. And I think that there was a general consensus that we wanted to do that. So I would be in favor of moving forward here with this. I don't have any problem with that. But I also believe that we need to, once again, convene the capital committee to look at some of those other items, because we did have additional funding that came in, or additional revenue at the end of the year that we had not anticipated, and our carryover was slightly higher. Therefore, our reserves were slightly higher than what we had thought at the time that we finalized the budget. So I would like to move forward with that committee, and I would be willing to go either way with respect to the purchase of this at this point in time. I too would like to see us, if we're going to do this, pay cash for the loader rather than do it and finance it. But that would be my take once again, Mr. Chairman.
I think we've heard from everyone but Commissioner Tolman. Do you have any thoughts?
I concur with Slaughter.
Gosh, chalk that one up.
Oh, it's tricky trying to run this. Oh, dear.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richards.
it sounds like we're on the same page. So I go ahead and make the motion that we approve the events complex's request to go forward with the cash purchase of the loader, the lowest bid of the loader as they've provided.
We do have a motion to approve the request as presented. Do we have a second?
I will second.
There we go. Yeah. You get to participate.
Motion by Commissioner Richards, second by Commissioner Toman. Further discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I totally support going forward with capital committee after this. I think it's time. We have a little bit more money than we thought we were going to have at this point of the year. And I think there's some worthy requests that we need to take a look at.
Yeah, I'm on board with it. I think we should start with that. So I'm gonna vote no. Because I am open to it and I support it, but I think, you know, our priorities have always been county core, component unit, and then outside agencies, and it just feels a little bit odd to me. But we do have a motion and a second on the table. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. I'm gonna be a nay, but motion passes 4-1. So thanks for coming over and bearing with us during the budgeting process. Don't take that nay vote as not supporting it. It's just the process that, you know, I kind of want to see like everything before we dive into it, but you're on your way. So congratulations and thanks for continuing to be a
Thank
good
you.
partner with Sweetwater
Thank
County.
you. And have a great Thanksgiving. And I didn't want to seem like a suck up before, but y'all look very nice today. So I'll say it afterwards.
nice.
Yeah,
That's
you look
good.
very nice today. So have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Same to you. And that's
Check
gonna
their
move us-
socks, Candy. Candy, make sure their socks match their ties.
Getting called out. Next item is the quarterly ambulance update. I don't know if we've got, where were they? Thanks, Candy. Thanks, Mr. Spicer.
I knew those socks were gonna come in handy today somehow. so.
Well, good morning to you all. You're up. You're in the hot seat. That's our next item is the quarterly ambulance update. We've got CEO of the Castle Rock Hospital District, Bailey Doctor, and others in attendance. I'll let you introduce.
Good morning. Thank
Morning.
you. Yeah, this morning I'm going to have our ambulance director and our CFO present to you. And then if there's questions, we can take them all together. So Kim White is up first.
Very good. Morning, Kim.
Good morning. All right, so we sent in the statistics. One thing that I want to draw your attention to is when you look at the total runs by month, there was some errors in the reporting that we were doing before, completely my fault. But if you look back on other things that we've sent you, the number of transported to the hospital versus the refused or canceled calls, especially the refused and canceled call is going to be tremendously different. I was using Waters through the state and it wasn't accounting for all the refused and canceled calls. So what you'll see in previous months is a lot higher transported to MHSC number and a much lower refused and canceled calls. So if you look at that, you can see, you know, we're called to a lot of 911 calls, but a lot of them were either refused. Those are patients that decide not to go to the hospital with us. A lot of those are lift assist and things like that. At times were canceled if they're fire calls or different things like that where EMS is not needed. And so, you know, when you look at how many things we respond to versus how many things we're actually transporting, it is quite a different number. Other than that, things have been going good. We've almost finished our classes for the staff to up their levels and their scopes of practice. And so we're excited for that and to be able to provide higher level of care. Most of our providers will be able to provide a higher level of care. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, thanks for the reports and for obviously coming over this morning. Were you doing all that training in-house? I can't remember. You
We
told
were.
us last time. Is
Yeah.
that what you're still doing?
Yeah, so we did 2 classes in-house and then one of them is still in the process. There's a paramedic course that's not being done by us, but we're hosting a lot of the students for their clinicals. And then we also have quite a few of our staff members that are taking it. So, but yes, we were hosting those in-house.
How's staffing going? You having difficulties with that or is it?
So actually, we've had quite a few applicants in the last couple weeks. And so that's been exciting. Yesterday, we interviewed 2 paramedics, which is awesome to be able to get those higher levels that are wanting to come and join us. So that's been good. We have had some staffing changes that they've been in a positive, they've been positive for us and it'll be good heading forward.
Yeah, I just asked because I know at a
Yeah.
time there, it's hard to find,
Yeah.
you know, and so that's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Yep.
Questions, discussion, commissioners? Commissioner Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just kind of to tag on to that, I was curious about staffing as well, because I see, looks like runs are kind of flat. But overtime is climbing dramatically, so I didn't know if that was staffing shortage or what.
Well, yeah, we've had consistent staffing shortage. And so most of our staff do 48s. So they do 48 hours a week. So there's that overtime that they have. Like I said, a lot of that is with our advanced life support. So our higher levels. And that's why we did these classes to get them to that higher scope of practice so that they can fill in those. So hopefully over the next few months, we'll see that starting to decline.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Morning, Todd. Thanks, Kim.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, commissioners. I'd like to turn your attention to the income statement for the ambulance service. And you can see on the right side, if you look at variance compared to budget, our revenues are 2% below budget. Our expenses are 3% below budget. So it's always good that our revenues are performing better than our expenses. The bottom line, our net operating loss right now is 15,000. This is through Q1, through September 30th. So quarter of the way through the year, we're 15,000 loss. Of that, the county has provided 391,000 in support to us. So without that support, we'd be approximately around 400,000 loss. So I don't remember how to say it, times 4, we're at 1.6 million loss for the year. That's what we're on pace for through one quarter, which would mean that we'd reduce our subsidy by 200,000 the next year. It's a little bit worse than where we were at this year. We were somewhere, we reduced the subsidy by more than 300,000 this year. The biggest factor in that is wages. We had pretty substantial wage increases for the paramedics and the EMTs to try to attract more applicants, to try to reduce overtime, to try to make sure that we're there when we need to take those long distance transfers, and that we're always there for the 911 responses, which, by the way, 911 responses have been busier than we've expected in this first quarter. Our long distance transports have been slower than expected. And then we've had a lot of events to start the year in the summer, more than we expected also. But overall, our financials we're looking good. Always like to see that we're on pace to, again, reduce our subsidy next year. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate the explanation. The questions I had, you answered. So any other, Commissioner Slaughter?
Question, Mr. Chairman, that I should have asked Kim probably. In the past, if I'm not mistaken, within the packet that you provided us, you've actually provided a sheet that has shown the staffing that you currently have. And I did not see that in this packet. That was something that I thought was beneficial, and it was interesting to see. If you could send it to us, I'd just like to see that. That's always curious on where your staffing is with respect to that.
Okay. Yeah. And that's one of the things, after I sat back down looking at the overtime and stuff, one of the things we did have, especially the first quarter, all of the events that we have to do, we have enough staffing to meet the needs for the most part of the 911 and stuff. But then when we have all the events and stuff like that, that can't take place without us being there, that adds to the cost of overtime and things like that.
Summer months and.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, we'll get that sent over.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And the idea there is, of course, we're not going to do events if they're not profitable to us. It's got to help our bottom line and help reduce the subsidy that the county's having to pay, so that taxpayers aren't funding us to be at these events any more than they already are. So our events in the first quarter, we were about 27,000 ahead of budget. And then our staffing was about 16,000 ahead of budget. So that's not apples to apples, but you can see that we brought in more revenue from the events, and that's 100%. We collect 100% of our event revenue, whereas our 911s, it's closer to 30% that we end up collecting on what we charge there. Transports is a lot higher than that. But events 100%. So we're happy to do events as long as it's profitable to us and as long as we have the staffing always for 911. And then the long distance transports take priority also over events.
Further discussion? Sure.
Sorry, we're like round robining today. Wanted to keep you informed of the progress that we're making on a new ambulance bay in Rock Springs. So as you know, the current location that we're responding from isn't ideal because it's kind of off the side of town, where there are a lot of calls, but we're delayed when responding to the other side of town. So we purchased a lot on Gateway Boulevard, which is more central, close to the hospital, but also close to the interstate. And we put out an RFP for a general contractor, and they are due to turn in part of their proposal today and then the other final costs by December 19th. So that is moving forward and we're hoping to be able to start construction in the spring, April, May timeline and have it finished up much, hopefully within a year of that. So if there's any questions that you have for that, or if anybody wants to, receive more information about that as we move forward with the, we're kind of just in the beginning phases of design, and that's why we wanted to hire a general contractor to start with so that they can help us with some cost saving measures and help kind of guide what the construction type of the building will be and those sorts of things. So we have had a few questions about, lights and sirens and how much with the businesses that are on Gateway, how much of that is going to impact how often we run lights and sirens, those kinds of things. But for the most part, we've gotten really good feedback from the community. People are excited to have it kind of in a more central location. So certainly if you have any questions about that or ideas or thoughts, we're welcome to your input as well. So.
Very good. Any further discussion? Well, as always, thanks for everything you do and for coming over and keeping us apprised as to all the happenings of the EMS service. It's never easy and there's always challenges involved with that, but sounds like you guys are getting things figured out and had a reduction this year and looks like probably a next one or another one next year. So that's good news. Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good day.
Congratulations on your reelection, Mr. Robbins. Have a good Thanksgiving. Next item on the agenda under tab C is item number 10. We've got a library board term limit extension. And I'm going to hand this one over to their liaison, Commissioner Richards.
Mr. Chairman, last year we identified that the terms of some of our library board members had been adjusted 13, 14 years ago to expire in December, despite the fact that state statute requires that all their terms expire on July 1st. So last year we extended Megan Jensen's term that had been due to expire in December, and we extended that to July 1st and then reappointed her. And when it came to July, this is the same thing that I'm proposing we do with Mr. Pazina's term. It's due to expire December 1st, but statute says that those terms should run through July 1st. So what I'm proposing, and I'll go ahead and make the motion, is that I move that we extend Philip Pazina's current term to extend through July 1st, 2025. So there's the motion. I'll go out and discuss if I get a second.
Thanks, Commissioner. We do have a motion to extend Philip Pazina's current term through July 1st, 2024 on the library board. A motion has been moved by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion on the extension?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
I just want to add that I have discussed this with Mr. Pazina, and he's happy to serve until July 1st. He has mentioned that he may want to step aside at that time, but he's happy to serve until July 1st.
Okay. Very good. All those in favor of the extension signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Next up is item number 11 for the Southwest Counseling Board appointment. They've had a vacancy on this board for a couple months. We had a couple applications on file. I did reach out to Gregory Orton. We played phone tag and voicemail tag, but I got to know him a little bit through voicemail, as weird as that sounds. He is still interested in serving on that. So that would be my recommendation, would be Gregory Orton to fill the unexpired term. And I would ask for a motion on that, unless there's any discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I do know Greg Orton. I think he would be a good fit. He's a good man. I like Greg.
I'd entertain a motion to appoint Gregory Orton to fill the unexpired term on the Southwest Counseling Mental Health Board through July 1st of 2027.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Any discussion on the appointment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Next is a Board of Health appointment. They too had a vacancy that I spoke about at our last meeting. We had 3 or 4 applications on file. And I did reach out and speak with Tamara Walker. She's a nurse practitioner at the hospital, Memorial Hospital, and is interested in serving. She has some past experience in serving as well. So that would be my recommendation. And before a motion, I would ask if there's any other thoughts or suggestions on that. Commissioner Jones?
Mr. Chairman, just, I agree with Tammy Walker. I reached out to a few people in that community and she came pretty highly recommended.
Very good. I'd entertain a motion to appoint Tamara Walker to fill the unexpired term on the Sweetwater County District Board of Health through July 1st, 2025.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Any discussion on the appointment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thank you to those 3 individuals who are willing to volunteer their time. Very important boards. The last item on our agenda is item number 13, which is consideration of a letter to the Industrial Siting Administrator concerning the Kemmer Power Station Unit 1. And it lists Eric on this.
Mr. Chairman, I think I can probably step in here.
Okay, Commissioner Richards, go ahead.
At our MOU meeting for Kemmer Phase 1, the discussion came up that on average, materials purchases for industrial projects run over 50%. In this case, it's maybe only a third of the total project cost, which we felt really limited the amount of impact funds that it made available. And since none of us really have any experience in nuclear power plant construction to go by, rather than officially challenge the application at the industrial siting hearing, we thought it would be better if the communities involved wrote letters to industrial siting, just asking them to investigate the application a little more thoroughly to see if the materials purchases that they're citing in their application is accurate, and that 10 million is really the maximum available for the industrial siting. So I believe Lincoln County is writing a similar letter. Uinta is writing a similar letter. I think some of the municipalities are too. But that's what this is. Just a suggestion to the industrial siting that they investigate a little bit more thoroughly.
Makes sense. Question on the letter, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the letter to the Industrial Siting Committee Administrator as presented and authorize signatures.
You have a motion to approve by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Discussion. I know there was a couple typographical errors that were caught, so you should have that revision that was emailed out by Eric this morning. And with that, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. 25 minutes ahead of schedule today, Commissioners. Job well done. That concludes the regular business that's set to come before us. Wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you back here on December 3rd. This meeting stands adjourned.